Hey everybody. I always think that's such a hard transition from a great video, and all of a sudden I just show up. It's Tuesday, it's 8 o'clock, and I'm absolutely thrilled you're here. All like 170 of y'all. If you saw the numbers, you'd be laughing about why I'm saying that. Hey, listen, a lot of stuff is going on, and I know you come here to try to get a little bit of everything. Sometimes we have a guest. We actually do have a guest. Sheena Rodriguez will be on here in a little bit. We're going to talk about the border, but then we're just sort of kind of go all the way around on a bunch of other stuff here. And but glad to have you. I'm retired Air Force Lieutenant Colonel Raul Reyes, proud servant and informer of the news, and not so much the gossip. Some of the things that are happening right now, I want to start off by saying Twitter is absolutely exploding. Now, I know a lot of you barely get on Facebook, and some of you all are on YouTube. And over the last 2 or 3 years, since they've started to clamp down, all these bots are actually telling people what they can and can't say. These are all private companies, but they've been literally throwing in suppressing freedom of speech, and it looks like on Twitter they did it to help Joe Biden. Now, a lot of folks are having conversations of, well, it's a private company. Joe Biden was not the president, but the problem is that when the FBI throws in the help and starts to help Twitter suppress the Hunter Biden laptop, then it becomes a matter of, right or wrong. And so enter Elon Musk buys Twitter. All of a sudden, $50 billion later, whatever he paid for it, he is literally changing what is happening on social media just because on Twitter he's making a lot of changes. Now that's, to me, that's hopeful. And before anybody throws in the comments, we got to watch out for Elon Musk, he's a heathen or whatever the case may be. Um, he has at least moved the ball back to some kind of balance, if you will. And so, anyway, we're watching Twitter closely. He dropped a whole lot of information where the Biden campaign was actually paying to and or asking or telling Twitter to suppress the Hunter Biden laptop store. Remember, that was a big deal, and people said, "Well, I don't know how that changes things," but it does. These are the October surprises that make a difference in a campaign, all the way up to November. In this case, November the 8th of last year. So, all that said, or this year, and or of that year in 2020, right? All that said, I remain hopeful on Twitter, but now, let me tell you why I started off with that story, because we all need some good news right now. We and the we're all looking at Democrats who are hell bent on destroying this country. I still look at Joe Biden and I wonder, you know, how is this guy even functioning? And I guess it's a lot of ice cream and a lot of things to keep his brain going, because, and I don't mean to belittle whatever is going on with the president, but he's obviously sick. Something's not right. He doesn't know where he's at half the time. And you look at places like Ukraine, we're almost on the brink of World War III. The Chinese are all over the place. And and so we need a solid home team of Republicans to get us to defeat Democrats. Now, we took back the House. We took back the House. Let me just go there for a second. That's great news. And the battle for who's going to be the Speaker of the House is ongoing right now. Now, let me throw up a couple of pictures as I go back to the main theme here is how do we take on Democrats with a home team of Republicans that seem to be fighting us on our conservative values, our platforms, our MAGA, America First populist message, the one that Trump has led the way, the one that Trump brought out 75 million voters, and on and on and on. Let me start off with this guy here real quick. Remember this? I almost said an expletive, and I'm not going to, but this is John Bolton. I didn't like John Bolton when he was working for President Trump. I didn't like him when he was on Fox News. I think in the early 2000s, when I first heard of this guy, along like with other folks like they're pundits. They're kind of like the Carl Rose, like Bill Crystal is another one. These are all people that grew up in National Review, other magazines, supposed conservative magazines. This guy came out yesterday or this morning. He says he's willing to run for president if Republicans don't repudiate what Donald Trump said about the Constitution. Now, as is always the case, Donald Trump says something, and if you take it out of context, uh, what the media is saying is that Donald Trump wants the Constitution thrown out the door, and that's not what's happening here, folks. So I put this guy up here because this is a supposed conservative Republican trying to challenge a one of the most popular presidents we've ever had. I mean, 75 million votes is an all-time high, and they didn't come out to vote for Joe Biden. Let's get him off of here. And again, remember, I'm asking myself this question: is there a lot of people who have just decided they're not going to vote anymore? What Republicans do we put our hope in that we can challenge Democrats? So let's get rid of John Bolton here because he's terrible. Um, this story here. Look at this. Two senators are going to attempt to force through immigration bills during lame duck. And by the way, this bill would give 2 million people amnesty. One of these guys is Tom Tillis. He's the Republican from North Carolina. He also voted for gun red flag laws, along with Kristen Sinema. She's the one from Arizona. Now, Kristen Sinema is the one that teamed up with Henry Cuellar, our very own Tony Gonzalez down here, and John Cornyn to open up more NGO facilities in Texas by which all these illegal aliens come into the country. Now, why am I bringing this up? Because once again, we have a Republican senator who is leading the way on amnesty. Folks, we are not for amnesty. It will crush the middle class like there's no tomorrow. So if you're a layman type non-political person and you're seeing all of these things, you're either decided you're not going to vote, you decided that Republicans aren't doing anything, you don't like Democrats more than likely. And what happens is then a very small amount of people are going to elect the next leaders of both the House and the Senate and the presidency. So this is another Republican. That's the point here. Let me give you another one here real quick. Let's go here. This was a story I saw earlier today or late last night. House Democrats block religious liberty amendment to same-sex marriage bill. The reason I'm putting this up is because, yeah, Democrats are blocking what we would say is religious liberty in light of the marriage equality bill that got passed not only in the House, but also in the Senate. Now, why am I throwing this up there with the theme that what Republicans do we trust? And the answer here is the only Texas Republican to vote for the marriage equality bill is right down here in District 23, one of the most conservative Catholic districts ever. Is Tony Gonzalez voted for the marriage equality bill. Okay. This now ends up, looks like it's going to be a law. It'll be signed into law sooner or later. And Republicans, Chip Roy specifically, and a few other folks, are literally trying to put an amendment in this bill that precludes them from coming after Christians or any faith that would hold LGBT or marriage, gay marriage, as an opposition to their faith. So, because the Democrats blocked it, here's what's going to happen with this here. We're literally at the brink of where, if the Bible says that uh, homosexuality is an abomination, and it does, then if you don't get an amendment to protect this religious liberty to be able to say that, then they're going to start to come after pastors and churches and Christians. Now, a lot of you are going to say, whoa, that's way out there, Raul. And the answer is, yeah, so is the invasion at the southern border. So is Ukraine. So is everything that's happening to. So is 87,000 or 67,000. Either one is a huge number of IRS agents who are hell bent on chasing you down for $600 as opposed to auditing the almost $100 billion we have sent to Ukraine. So It's not insane to say that the possibility that faith believing Americans, what Christians, whatever their faith is, are going to be persecuted if you go against the Marriage Equality Act. And that's where we're at. And now, why do I bring this up? Again, the theme is, why would we trust a Republican named Tony Gonzalez? You see? Because even for this amendment, there were not enough Republicans helping Chip Roy to try and get this amendment through to help, um, I guess, salvage this bill or at least protect the faith community in whatever manner they could based on the Marriage Equality Act. Okay, let's keep moving here because I want to present this other one here. Let me see what this one is here. I'm going to leave that one there for a second. Let's put this one up here. Okay. Here in Texas, Dade Phelan looks like he's going to be the next Speaker of the House in Austin. And it looks like 76 Republicans voted for him, knowing that he's going to put Democrats in committee chairs that will most likely kill the priority bills that the RPT has set forth. Now, why did I put Dan Patrick's out there? Because the point here is Dade Phelan's a Republican. 76 people are Republicans who voted to bring in Dade Phelan. Now, the vote actually takes place, I think, on the 10th of January. So we're all going to be watching that. Tinderholt is Representative Tinderholt has challenged and wants the actual vote out in public. Good. We need to hear. We need to see that. So that's good news. But assuming Dade Phelan, is gavelled in as the Speaker of the House. Okay, that means 76 Republicans understood and voted for a guy who's going to put in the chairmanship positions, Democrat kill bills that all the way to the House. Now, why did I put Dan Patrick up there? Look, I've not heard anything from Dan Patrick. What he said, I think, was, I'm not going to get in the business of the House. Well, he's only the most powerful guy in Austin. Say what you will about the governor. The governor, by the way, if you didn't know this, the governor's position is one of the weakest positions in the entire, you know, political process here in Texas. But this guy right here, Dan Patrick, what he's done is he's taken a whole lot of bills over every session and he flings them over into the House. But because you had guys like Joe Strauss, Bonin, and now Dade Phelan, it was understood that they were going to kill bills that he didn't want to survive all the way to the governor to begin with. So, yeah, I'm bashing Dan Patrick here. You guys can like him all you want, but this guy's been too silent. He can make things happen in the House by threatening things in the Senate, but I've yet to see that. So, again, why would anybody lay all their marbles into the Republican leadership that right now? We got a guy named John Bolton who's just a complete moron, to be honest with you. We probably shouldn't even use him. But you got Karl Rove out there saying, we have the most extreme abortion law in the entire United States. This is a Republican, folks. This is supposed to be a Republican. You see, we've got 76 people who have openly have voted for Dade Phelan, probably a Democrat, who is going to make a deal with Democrats anyway. And there go all the conservative priorities right out the door. And if I sound a little angry, it's because maybe I am. And I'm a little angry for a whole lot of other people who, look, everybody's tired. We're all tired of going to keep it red, voting for Republicans, and ending up with people like Dan Patrick, who, to be honest with you, is one of the weakest lieutenant governors we have. Now, sure, he can wield his muscle. He knows how to do that because that's what politicians do. They can make it so they get the right people. Okay, well, good on you. But now do the people's will. And that's what's not happening, I believe, in the great state of Texas and at the federal level. If, for whatever reason, the Speaker of the House is Dade Phelan, I keep looking at all the money that supported the other 76 Republicans because there's a lot of conservative donors. Are you going to pull your money back? At what point do we say this is not okay? Because the administration of the great state of Texas is almost, let me say this. The administration of the great state of Texas, it's not just the priorities and the conservative priorities that we put out in the RPT, which is the Republican Party of Texas, the SREC, those folks that meet quarterly and provide this list to that guy right there that you're seeing, and Dade Phelan. It is also, paying bills, doing all great. All that stuff has to get done. That's why you get something like 1,200 bills that go through the legislative body and they pass, but they cannot pass 8 bills. Those are the top 8 conservative bills. They include the stopping the mutilation, gender mutilation of children, of minors, reducing or preferably eliminating property taxes, stopping the invasion on the border, and on and on and on. There's only 8 of them, folks, but we can't lay our we can't trust any of the Republicans right now to do what they say they're going to do. Now, everybody's going to look, well, you're bashing Republicans again. Yeah, I'm a little upset with the fact that we can't beat Democrats with the team we have right now. And now let me turn it around here as I'm going to bring in Sheena here in a little bit. But it was a great week, and I ended up at the Texas Scorecard Award ceremony. And if you've ever seen this or been there, this is where they hand out these swords for people that are out there tackling these problems. Tara Pesh, who's uh, a person. I met her, consider her a friend. She's out of Fredericksburg. She received an award, and a few, there's something like 11 or 12 people did. I mentioned her because, as an example, she took on the school board and the books that were in her library trying to defend. When they talk about the mama bears, they're talking about Tara and a few other folks. So when I go to the Texas Scorecard Award ceremony up in Irving, minded that we're not supposed to put our trust in these people. We're going to have to go elect a whole bunch of new Republicans, folks. That's all there is to it. And we've got 2 years to do that for 2024. I think it helps that Trump's going to be on board because more people are going to come out. You'll have him calling out the rhinos as he's doing that already. But we're going to need a new batch of Republicans, because when we get started on the Texas legislative session this coming January, I think we're going to see a lot of fails. Now, I'm not holding my breath either way. All I'm saying is we'll be out in Austin. I encourage all of you to get out to Austin and do the same thing. And if you have your Republican representatives, tell them, do not vote uh, for the Speaker of House that we have right now, because what's going to happen is we're going to get the same. And if we vote the same guy in for the Speaker of the House, they're going to go against the MAGA America First candidates, because that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to set up a barrier for when Trump comes back. Like it or not, and I've said this before, but the guy that needs to come back and run the ship for 4 more years is going to be Donald Trump. If you prove me wrong, I'll buy somebody a beer. But for now, we need to tackle a bunch of Democrats, but we're not going to be able to do it with some of the folks that call themselves Republicans. They're working for big money. They're not working for us. I'll make one last point before I grab Sheena here. But for everybody who said the Hispanic red wave, the Hispanic red wave, that group of people are watching, and they're not going to jump the fence to come to the Republican Party based on what I just said. And this is why we're saying it, because it's about time somebody said it. And by the way, that's white America, that's black America, that's all Texans. They're all watching the Republican Party fail time and time again. The reason we didn't have a red wave, period, was because nobody wants to vote for the rhinos that are out there pretending to be conservative when they're not. And all the while, we have a problem at the border. Now, that said, I want to turn it over. Let me introduce to you, this is one of the hardest working people I've seen. I met her a while back. She's created a PAC, Alliance for Texas, and full disclosure, I'm part of the council board. But Sheena has been running around. When I tell you that she's been doing more than most people, is because out of her own pocket, out of her own car, out of her own family's expenses, she is out there trying to showcase and tell people what the problem on the border is. So I'm not going to go too much further. Let's get her on board. Let's talk to her. And let's say hello to Ms. Sheena Rodriguez, Alliance for a Safe Texas. How are you tonight?
I am so good. Thank you so much for having me on. First time on the show. I'm excited to be here. So thank you.
Yeah,
And
no,
long time
listen.
no see.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I was talking about being at the scorecard award ceremony, and those people give me a lot of hope because individually they got their own awards, and they're huge swords. I mean, you saw these things are. One lady, I think it was all the way up to her eyeballs, and was trying to figure out how she's going to get this on the airplane. But what I tell folks is that night, you want to lose hope, I think, with the way things are. Democrats are horrible, but we don't have the right Republicans to go and punch their lights out. And I mean that politically, folks, before somebody. Um, but and then you look at the border, Sheena. I mean, I I've been a critic of Abbott for a very long time. He's declared an invasion. Tell me, is that doing anything for the southern border? Are we making inroads? Did we stop anything at all with the declaration of the invasion? The smirk tells me a lot. Go ahead.
Well, first, I mean, I would argue. I know that a lot of news media, even on the right, has been saying that he did in fact declare an invasion. I would disagree with that. Technically, last time I checked, a formal declaration cannot be done from a personal Twitter page. So with no
Yeah,
new executive orders, nothing new that we're seeing on the border, yeah, for the last 2 years, I mean, I've traveled all over, the great state of Texas. I've got so many miles on my car now. You would think I was a politician with as much as I've
are you
traveled.
are you running for anything? That's because you're everywhere.
I
Yeah.
mean, you know how many people have asked me that, like, over the last year. So, what are you running for? And I'm like, I mean, apparently the border. I don't know. But the thing of it is, and I saw some articles today that he's officially deployed the 10 new tank like vehicles. I mean, we have over 1,250 miles along the border of Texas.
Right.
I'm not quite sure what 10 armored looking vehicles. I mean, believe it or not, it was actually the Stars and Stripes. Your former military, right? I know you
Yeah.
you probably are aware of that.
Yeah.
They started turncoating, in my opinion, and started leaning far left quite some time ago. But their article a few days ago, I was like, wow, I've got to give it to them. The Stripes actually got it right this time.
Yeah.
With pointing out that they even said he's putting 10 more empty armored vehicles, down there. He even took off the quote unquote cannon parts. It's going to be as useful as the empty Humvees that were used for the photo ops, and the shipping containers. I don't know what to say. So,
Well,
uh,
let me ask you this question: Is so you know, these are armored vehicles. You're right. I think we're better off putting those shipping containers that were down there because at least they sort of blocked off the river in certain part. I guess the high traffic areas. Um, Ben Berkwam is a good friend of yours. You're like I see you in your videos. And folks, if you haven't, you've got to go look at her videos. Ben Berkwam and Anthony Aguero is another one out there. Frank Lopez right down the road in Del Rio. But I see Sheena, you're out there like at 3 or 4 in the morning. No, nobody's paying you to do this, right? And the reason I'm saying this, folks, is because Sheena and I were at the Texas scorecard, and the people that got these awards are kind of like they're like Sheena in their own respective areas. They're all devoted to doing their thing. Nobody's paying them. Nobody's paying you, Sheena. I mean, you said it earlier. How many miles have you put on? And why would you go and be there at 2 or 3? What's driving Sheena Rodriguez, to be out there, not with your family? Tell me what's the energy behind exposing what's happening and what really isn't happening out there?
for me, I got my start in my advocacy years ago, when my kids were very young,
Right.
in the pro-life movement, right? And when I felt that calling to go down there about 2 years ago now, down there to the border. I couldn't understand why, but what God revealed to me, and I don't want to sound like a lunatic here, and no, he doesn't talk to me like audibly, but what God revealed to me really was this is a pro-life issue. And what I've seen and what I've encountered personally and witnessed, the Project Veritas drop that just came out. I got to tell you, for about 3 days after that happened, I really did not sleep much. And
Yeah.
it's because, the last time, about a month ago, I was down there in Arizona, in Yuma, Arizona, with our good friend, with Anthony Aguero down there, and Maria Miller. And then prior to that, I was just down there in Roma and La Jolla.
Yeah.
And for those who follow me, have seen the articles that I've written, the footage and things like that, and I've spoken out a lot. And I just cannot, it's stuck in my head. I mean, it confirmed what we already knew. And I've been screaming at the top of my head. Prior to that, I was in Washington, D.C. with the Center of Immigration Studies. I was invited up there to a conference that they have, and learning and working with some of the individuals that I'm connected with up there. And I'm going, there's so much more that we could be doing on the state level that's not being done, far more even than just the physical border, right? The photo ops that are occurring. And it begs the question as to why, when we're talking about innocent children being exploited and everything else, right? The drugs, the literal invasion that's happening at fellow Texans' property, and them being forced out of their lands. I mean, it's horrific. But there's a lot that could be done, that people just aren't talking about, far more even than even just a declaration of invasion. So
Yeah, now let's provide people a little bit more information on the Project Veritas, because what Sheena's talking about, and jump in here whenever you want, but Project Veritas is O'Keefe, right? That's his name,
yeah,
and
James O'Keefe.
yeah, and he's fantastic at inserting people in certain things and literally getting video about what's really happening, and they just dropped, I guess, a day or two ago, maybe, this uh, horrific exposing video that literally says what Sheena's been saying for 2 or 3 years now, myself as well. Part of why we've got involved, she sees it from the and it's accurate. It's, for me, the reason I got involved a while back was I'm from Del Rio, Texas. And I remember coming in from church and seeing a video. I think it was CNN or somebody saying, and there was a little girl who wasn't even 10 years old, had been raped multiple times, looked like hell had hit her, and was part of this migrant movement. And I said, they're exploiting children. And for the longest time, and this is what Project Veritas is exposing, is they're using the babies and the children, they're exploiting them for sex, but for the longest time, Sheena, they've been using children for adults that aren't married and don't have family, sort of like a rent a kid kind of thing, to get across and pass the immigration process, because all you had to say was, we fear for our lives and this is my kid. Half of them don't have documentation. Project Veritas finally dropped video that shows all of that. Is that, am I hitting it
Yeah.
right?
Hard evidence right here in the state of Texas. And so, and going back to one of the things that you touched on earlier, I am not an Elon Musk fan. Let me make that evident. Okay. I am not. He is a transhumanist. That's a whole other conversation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I agree with you in the fact that what he's been exposing and allowing James O'Keefe and I think it was just the Project Veritas account back on Twitter. Right after that, the day after, is when they first started dropping, and they've had two separate releases as of right
Yeah.
now. And basically what it is it was a current DHS employee, someone who works with the HHS and ORR, talking all the acronyms here, but the Office of Refugee Resettlement, that deals in HHS, that deals specifically with the children and the unaccompanied minors. And when I tell you about, going back down there recently to Roma and La Jolla, several of these, I wanted to go back down there. You guys know I spent a lot of time in the Del Rio sector, but prior to that, I had wanted to get back to Roma and La Jolla, because that's where the good bulk of these unaccompanied minors have been going to. And if you understand the border, you understand that the cartel in particular over there is known for being violent, vicious. They're all violent and vicious, don't get me
Yeah.
wrong, but particularly violent and vicious, operating on both sides of the border there. And so that's another reason why it was just so frightening. This last time that we just went there, Anthony and I, Maria, we encountered, nobody can convince me otherwise, what was intervening in a sex trafficking attempt operation. And prior to that, the night before, on night two that we were there, we had the chance to speak for about a good hour. Anthony was live during the entire thing, with these unaccompanied minors. The oldest was about 17, the youngest was about 10. And
Yeah.
I spoke with these children, many of them, with
It's
their
hard.
own courage,
It's
talking about the
heartbreaking.
abuse they've
I'm sure
endured.
it's heartbreaking. Yeah.
It is. And that's the reason why, especially after the Project Veritas drop, where they went into, they visited these homes, they did the job, that HHS, is not willing to do, and that Mayorkas is not willing to do, to actually follow up on these so-called sponsors, and see where what was actually happening with these children. Because even prior to that, about a year ago, Axios reported that the Biden regime themselves, admitted to losing up to 40% of unaccompanied minors. That's huge. That's massive, and probably well underreported, unfortunately. But even by their own admission, well, Veritas followed through, on where these children were going to these sponsors who are unvetted, many of them not even legal residents,
Yeah.
nevertheless American citizens, and several of them right here in Texas, from Austin and Houston and several other areas throughout Texas, documented sex trafficking, labor trafficking, of minors, children. I'm talking 14, 15 and younger,
Yeah.
all hard evidence happening right here in Texas. So,
Well, and let me say this, and the because I want to know, what you think. It's understood for the longest time, and back, folks, you know, folks like Sheena, myself. You look at Anthony Aguero, especially Ben Burkham. He's always been on the border, but right off the bat, Sheena, I remember as soon as Joe Biden took office back in January of 2021, and I remember getting a call from a good friend, the border patriot Frank Lopez. He says, "That's it. The floodgates are open," and we were already monitoring these things. Even from about February, March, we were rallying a lot of folks. I know you were involved in a lot of great things as well. And let me tell you, by May, Greg Abbott is in Del Rio, and it looks like we pressured him into getting to do something. So, inbound comes Operation Lone Star, and it turned into a lot of nothing. And it wasn't by June timeframe. I know myself, a guy like Frank Lopez, we were already bashing not only Joe Biden, because the bottom line is that guy broke and removed policies that broke the border when it was secured by the former president, Donald J. Trump. And we were bashed. We were, oh, you hate Republicans. And here we are, almost, oh no, 2.5 years later, whatever it is now. The answer is we still have a play on words. What's holding Abbott, in your opinion, from using I mean, because he's declared an invasion. I mean, he doesn't need the federal government's permission to defend Texas, and more importantly, stop this travesty with the kids. Every time I see a post, because I saw it on Twitter today, he's got these 10 or 12 tank looking things, and they're all going to go to the border. I just, and this is why I started my monologue earlier. It's what Republicans are gonna come and actually do what they say they're supposed to do. Because let me say this, and then I'll let you answer. Is if in these times we don't have the right men and women in the party that is supposed to be Christian, constitutionally based, we are never going to be able to fight the evil that is at its worst right now, and it's only going to get worse. So why isn't Abbott acting? Now, everybody wants to know. Now, a lot of people went and voted him in. Somehow they found better than, it doesn't matter which one. it doesn't matter where you're at on all the different, you know, that were on there. My point being is, why is Abbott not acting more like a constitutionalist? I mean, is he running for president and this is part of trying to stay out of the fray? I mean, what do you know? What's the sauce here? I mean, we're all batting our heads going more containers, more this and that. Oh, we stopped all these fentanyl drugs. Oh, we Operation Lone Star. By the way, we're at $5 billion. We're at $5 billion and counting. And he's going to, Dan Patrick, I put him up there. Part of his priorities is provide more money for the border. All right, I'm going to shut up now. Tell me, is there some reason our governor won't act like the Republican, more importantly, the constitutionalist? He's a damn lawyer, Sheena. Tell me. Okay, go. What do you got?
I think that there's a few different things that are at play here. Honestly, in my opinion, I'm going to try and break them down really quickly from how I see it. Because I never really was involved in politics, the politics angle,
Yeah,
prior to about 2 years ago, but I've learned quickly. I'm a precinct chair here, and I've gotten involved in the political realm because I see the necessity of it. The way that I see it is, number one, he is a politician, right? He's also, and I'm not, look, I voted for Abbott, just in November, because Beto wasn't an option, right? But that's the position that we're always put in. But I think that also what's in there, and of course, people are going to say, oh well, but I think there was funny business during the primary. Maybe, yeah. I mean, I'm not going to say that there wasn't, right? We all know that there's issues. I mean, heck, look at what's going on in Harris County still, right?
yeah,
And in other areas. But if you want my honest opinion, what I see from being on the ground everywhere, including right here in North Texas, people still just don't know. They just don't.
well,
As a precinct chair, I just did another video where I'm blowing the lid on HEBISD because nobody's had eyes on it and everything else. And even within my own family, who we are Hispanic, right? My family is Puerto Rican. We do not share politics in common with the Cubans. So I've always been the black sheep, the black conservative sheep in my family for the most part. But some of my siblings do lean conservative. And President Trump, going back to what you said earlier, right, during your monologue, President Trump got them out to vote.
mhm,
And why? Because it resonated with him. The populist message resonated with him, and he was willing to go to battle with the establishment. And people felt like, I finally have someone who actually cares, who gets it, who isn't one of them. But I say all of that. These are people who are on our quote unquote side. But when I show them some of the things, because they know I'm involved in the border, they know I'm involved in the schools and things like that. They're like, Sheena, I had no idea. I'm like, yeah, I know, because the vast majority of the people outside of me and you, right, and
yeah,
everybody else who's watching this that lives and breathes politics as if it's sports,
yeah,
okay, nobody pays attention. The vast majority of the people still, even with things as bad as they are, when they come home from working, they're exhausted, and the last thing that they do is they don't turn on the TV to watch even Fox News, or
mhm.
anybody else who's much far better. They turn on to watch Yellowstone, who I've never seen in an episode ever in my
Great
life.
show. It's a great
But
show.
I've never seen it. We can't afford cable, bite inflation. But my point is that even the vast majority of our base and people who identify ideologically with us still do not know. They know that something's wrong. And
Yeah,
if they're motivated and to go out there, and that also goes to your other point of what we need to do. Look, I was watching the Georgia runoffs right now, right? Like earlier. We're
yeah,
watching it closely. I haven't seen it here in the last few minutes, but we can't keep doing the same thing. And you touched on something earlier too, like about the money, the money, the same money going to the same type of candidates, right? The same type of candidates running. We need to shake things up. We need regular mothers and fathers, boots on the ground. And
yeah,
I hate to say this, but we also need people to donate that money, and to show up to the polls, just throwing their hands up and saying, well, our vote doesn't matter. It's all going to get stolen anyways. Look, we're shooting ourselves in the foot. You're doing their job for them. And we need to get back to spreading the awareness of what's actually happening, having those really difficult and uncomfortable conversations,
Yeah.
outside of our own realm of people, our bubble. So,
Well, and if I'm a well-to-do Texan, and any of or some of my money went to any of those, I think it was 76 people voted for Dade Phelan, I'm pulling my money back. Now some people are going to say, "Oh, you want Republicans to?" No, listen, and I tell everybody, I always lay blame in a positive way on a guy named Donald J. Trump, because for as asleep as the masses are, that guy still managed to get 75 million people out to vote. You know what I don't hear a lot about, Sheena, now is build a wall. All of a sudden, that's not in vogue, right? But when Trump was saying it, every politician in the world is like, we're going to build the wall. And we can't even get containers out there. Hell, 10 or 12 of these tank looking things are going to hold off 2,000 miles of border. I don't know. We have something like 11 or 1,200, whatever the number is. It's too much for 12 tanks. I'm going to tell you that straight out. And so, again, over the weekend, as I'm sitting there with a bunch of just great patriots, I mean, these are wonderful people. Uh, and then we step out back into this world where Dade Phelan looks like he's going to be the guy. And of course, up at in Congress, they've got a whole food fight going on as well for the Speaker of the House there as well. And they seem to want to gaslight, confuse us, manipulate us, the masses, into believing that if you don't vote for this guy, we're going to be a wreck. And I think we're getting to that point. And I want to show this picture here. Let me set this up. This is a picture I got from a guy named Mike Howell, has put out a report. You know Mike from the Heritage Foundation up in DC. They just put out this, and we're going to have him here next week to talk about this. But I'm going to go ahead and put this one up here. This is a picture that Mike and his crew they researched, and what they did was they did what they call a geofence. And if you look down there in Texas, for all the NGO facilities like the Valverde Humanitarian Facility in Del Rio, the Border Mission Hope and Eagle Pass, and those are down there on the border. They geofence these areas, and now it's just a technical mechanism or way to ping phones, technology, so that when those phones go somewhere else, you're able to track them. And by the way, this is all perfectly legal. So like, if for instance, if you're all of a sudden you're at you're driving by and there's a Chick-fil-A, if you open up your phone, your chick it'll say, "Hey, go eat Chick-fil-A." And that's what geofence is. So it's all part of marketing to your phones, folks. There's nothing illegal about this. They use geofencing to determine that this is where the bulk of the illegal aliens are going. Now, full disclosure, this is 1 month, January of 2022. I mean, this is insane, Sheena. They are, and if I show you some of the other pictures, everybody needs to check us out next Tuesday as we talk to Mike about this. It looks like a bad virus has just hit the entire United. If you think this is bad, I'm going to show you another one next week. And what you're going to see is literally that the United States has been infiltrated by illegal aliens. And that's what they are. The Constitution says that's what they are. They're not documented, undocumented, whatever the right words you want, it makes you feel better. All I can say is, I'm looking at Dade Phelan. Are we gonna we're going to outlaw NGO facilities in Texas? Because we could probably do that here. Are we going to build the wall in Texas? Because I know Brian Slayton has put in a bill for that, which will probably going to die. It's going to be dead on arrival. I'm pretty sure about that. But what about some real solutions? Like I just named one. Can Texas say no more operations of the NGO facilities? I remember May of 2021, Greg Abbott put the executive order that said nobody can move illegal aliens from the border anywhere. And the fine print was unless you are a federal agent. So that's how he allowed Border Patrol, and now all of a sudden we have a bunch of white buses. But one of the other things he said is no institution, no Texas institution can house minority illegal, well, he called them migrants, right? No children migrants can be housed in Texas facilities. But then the fine print said, except if you're a contracted federal agency, because this is how they're getting away with it, right? This is how you have the border mission hub, Valverde humanitarian. For folks who don't understand, you don't see all these, but they're all in the southern place. Sheena's been to just about all of them, I think. Can we Texans legislate a bill that says we will not allow you to do that? Because I have relatives that work for a child, the people from Texas that take care of children and try to put them when they're in trouble with their parents or whatever the case may be. There's 10,000 kids they can't find homes for.
Mhm.
And yet we have thousands of illegal alien children coming through. What can we do? I mean, you're going to be actively uh, just doing all you can in Austin. What are some of the things you want to tackle in Austin? I guess is what I'm asking.
From the legislative standpoint, there's a lot that can be done. You are right. Representative Slayton resubmitted his border wall bill. He did have it last session, and it died in, I believe it was Stephanie Click's office or committee. It didn't move much. I did actually comment on the bill in one of the Texas scorecards articles about the bill. And I have about right now about 30 bills that I'm keeping a very close eye on. Most of them are either national security type bills or border related bills. Slayton's bill is one of them. Actually, I have to say I'm very impressed with Slayton's resubmission this session. I think that the verbiage is a lot stronger. It's a lot tighter of a bill. And so they definitely won't be able to use that excuse this go around in the 88th that they used last one. But with regards to the children, I'll let you in on a little secret, and I'm glad that you said something. We had just yesterday Alliance for a Safe Texas. I put out some social media on my personal and our 2 Facebook pages and other pages, an action item regarding the HR 7946, which is, I had to write it down. It's the Veteran Service Recognition Act, but it's really the Amnesty
Yeah.
Act. We put out an action item for that. And people were responding. They were on it. Right? And I just put out an article, another blog regarding where people can go get Narcan. So please check that out on securetheborder.us. It's also on my social media. But the reason why I'm excited about what you just said is because I'll let you in on a little secret. Now that I'm able to finish those, I can move on towards and focus on the next big action item that I'm about to release. And I'm going to need a lot of help. And it has specifically to do with Project Veritas and some of the things, because I actually reached out to a few of the staffers that I had been working with from a few different offices. And I said, y'all, right now, nothing that we have as an organization have been pushing for, I'm not seeing it, right?
Right.
Because I'm just not seeing it. It's still early, right, mind you, but I'm not seeing it. And one of the things that we have that with the action item is going to be specifically about the children. Now that we have hard evidence with Project Veritas, we're going to need support from all around Texas, all these different groups. I'm going to ask for people's names on there, write down your name and your county. And if you're part of a GOP group, part of a Patriot group, get behind this. The Texas legislators during the ADA session, because you hit on it perfectly, because our foster care system has already been so overwhelmed, even prior to this border and this active invasion, Texas legislators can and need to do an evaluation. They need to ask for updated stats, and they can say that we as a state of Texas, our foster care system is so overwhelmed, and that's provable when you're having foster care, kids staying in motels, again, prior to this invasion, right?
Right.
Because there's just no beds for them. That we're so overwhelmed, we can no longer take these unaccompanied minors and those who are associated after this new hard evidence has come out. And there's a lot of other evidence out there that has not yet been mentioned. We're no longer, if you are an NGO and you are taking, we can stop your federal dollars we can stop funding it. And so there's a lot that we can do. We're going to be putting out that updated action item within the next few days. I need to make sure that my verbiage is correct and send it to a few trusted sources, people that I use. And then we'll be putting out that action item, actually calling for that. And I'm going to be, hopefully this is where people need to stand up. Once we blast this out, organizations will come on board, other grassroots organizations, those other mama bears and papa bears will hopefully jump on board, because this is about the children. And then this is something that not the governor can do. This is what our state legislators can do. So we're going to need everyone full force, all hands on deck to say we need something done about this with the children, and it'll be specific.
Well, I'm hopeful that the legislators will do the right thing. Right now, they're off to a bad start with Dade Phelan being the guy, and that's how we started this monologue. Sheena, we're gonna kind of move on here, give me 2 minutes here of what's your website? Where can they find you? Where can they get these updates? Give us the whole where do we look to find updates on what you're doing?
So securetheborder.us is Alliance for a Safe Texas, and Secure the Border's website. That's securetheborder.us. And then we're on Facebook. I've got my personal page, Sheena Rodriguez. We've got the private page, Secure the Border, and also Alliance for a Safe Texas has a page. And then we're also on Getter and Twitter. But all of the links you can find to all of the social media and the action items. Sign up for the action items and the emails at securetheborder.us. And I appreciate you. And I'm looking forward. 88th is going to be fun. We're going to rock it. We're going to have some fun. So,
Well, listen, I want to thank you for coming on. And, we want to get updates. So, nothing says you can't pop in here on every other Tuesday or whenever you want. Give us the 5-10 minute drill. And if you need some more support and help, we're here to just spread the message as much as we can. So, thanks for coming on board. God bless you for everything you do. Keep at it. And we're going to keep plugging away, not just at the issues, but trying to help you get some help for you and maybe some gas tank money. How's that? So,
that would be good. Texas is huge. So, but I appreciate it. God bless you, Raul, and everything that you're doing. And thank you very much for your time.
okay, lady, we'll talk later. See you later.
Bye.
All right. There you have it, folks. I started off this monologue sort of complaining about, Republicans who I've supported, who I voted for, and yet the invasion of Texas is still going on. And if you know anything about how I end up here on a podcast with that sign in the back, by the way, a good friend gave that to me. I'm not so goody two shoes that I'd build it on my own, but the reason we're still talking the issues here is because, like Cena, back in 2018, when these cages that were built by Obama got blamed on a guy named Trump, and you see these children being just totally abused by the whole illegal, alien invasion. You just can't sit back and do anything. I spent 22 years down in Central and South America. I've seen more crap than you can imagine. Poverty, abusing of children like this, drugs, cartel, big cartel, working out of U.S. Southern Command, going to places like Colombia. To come home and see it here um, is not something you can just sit by idly and do nothing about. And so I absolutely appreciate Sheena for everything she's doing. Back to not just the scorecard, folks. I know that there's eliminate property taxes. Russell Bennett is out there fighting that issue. There's the mama bears on the library and the books that are out there. Tara Pesh and a whole bunch of different folks. Fredericksburg Tea Party, the Lano Tea Party. I mean, and on and on and on. I know that all of you are out there swinging away at the fences, and so God bless you for that. I am complaining about the supposed liar Republican that lied to you and me in my face, and then got elected and turned around and cowardly put his back against us, towards us, because he would prefer to satisfy big money or stay in the know or in the politics or wants a job afterward. I am tired of those coward representatives. And by the way, uh, Democrats are at the forefront. They're at the front of the line for me when it comes to that. They are destroying this country. They're communists or socialists. There's no love lost for if you're still voting Democrat. I don't understand it. I do understand why you won't vote for certain Republicans because I see it as well too. And we're going to work hard to get those folks out of here. Quick update. This is what I'm seeing right now for the Warnock Walker, and we're praying Herschel Walker. I'm not only just a fan of the Cowboys, but definitely of Herschel Walker. Um, all kinds of baggage have come out, but that's what they do. They try to destroy good people. Whether half of what's happened with Herschel Walker is true or not. Right now, we need to get him elected. If you're in Georgia, folks, it might be a little too late. I think they're still counting, but the ballot harvesting is real, and we may see some of that here. I hope Herschel Walker pulls it off. But for the rest of you, I want to thank you for coming on board, listening to us. Again, I'll end it with this: um, where do people go who don't want to be communist socialists? Because we're not. This is America. Have realized that their Democrat Party has left them. Where do they go? Do they go to the Republican Party of Dade Phelan? Because that guy is not a conservative. Do they go to Liz Cheney? Hell, even here in CD23, Tony Gonzalez, who nobody really sees because he's not around anywhere, and has voted time and time and time again against all constitutional conservative values he said he was for. And to hell with the wall, because I mean, I don't think he's even proposed that. I do want to send, as we would say back in our day, a shout out to Chip Roy. If you've not seen Chip Roy here lately, he is absolutely on fire, as you should be for this country. And I can't thank him enough. I wish he was our congressional district representative, and he's out there doing what you're supposed to do, representing his constituency, defending America, defending the Constitution, because that's what we need to be generational and generational to survive. Because evil is present. Communist socialists will continue to try to take this country down. I don't want to say they're winning because we're still here fighting, but there's days it gets a little bit tough, especially when you see Republicans voting for amnesty, voting for Dade Phelan, who's going to essentially put in Democrats into chairmanship positions. And for all of you who think, well, this is kind of what we do in Texas, at some point you're going to realize and wake up it's very late in the game. We haven't secured our borders. We've vaccinated everything because that's what's happening here lately. And CRT has infested our children to the point that they're talking back against constitutional values, conservative Christian values that are out there. So we're going to keep fighting. I want to thank you for being here on Tuesday. We're going to have Mike Howell next Tuesday. Again, we're going to have a different picture than this. Mike Howell is with the Heritage Foundation. This is going to be a wonderful 1 hour session that explains what is going on with the NGOs who, as you look at this map, literally are right here in the great state of Texas. So uh, doesn't matter to me. You can send tanks, you can spend another $5 billion, but and we need to blame Joe Biden and Democrats for that. That is accurate. But the invasion of the great state of Texas is happening under the governor's watch, Greg Abbott. And you can hate me for it. I don't care. I'm going to call out anybody who isn't securing the border. I'm from Del Rio, Texas. I'm from the border, folks. And it's like hell at that little city mine because they're all over the place. And it's going to be held in places like Fort Worth and Austin and all these other, because fentanyl, drugs, and illegal aliens, they're the reason we're spiking in crime. So hang in there, stay positive, get a little righteous indignation, and go out there and fight for not just Texas, for America, for the Constitution. And anybody who gets in the way, to hell with them. I don't care if you're a Democrat or a Republican. If you're not doing your job, you need to get the hell out of your position, because we've had enough of you. So, yeah, bring me back a guy named Donald Trump so he can fire the lot of them, and let's clean house in the Texas legislation next time we can. So, all that said, go Herschel, go, or is it run Herschel run? I guess. And all right, enough mumbling. God bless every one of you. Have a wonderful, wonderful evening, and we'll catch you next time.